Welcome to the Chad and Chong podcast. I am Chad.
I am a Kevin, but not Chong.
That's right. This is Kevin, but not Chong. This is Kevin Jimenez, a great friend, drummer, educator, influencer, dad, husband.
There we go.
Food enthusiast, one of my good friends. And he's actually co-hosting today since the other Kevin is unavailable. So Kevin, not Chong, thank you for co-hosting today.
Of course. Thank you. But I clearly missed the dress memo. Why are you wearing a jacket? And why didn't you tell me?
Well, as you can see, I've got this nice suit jacket on today because we are going to be talking about a gig that I just did. It's very fresh. I'm literally still wearing my attire. I still got my credentials, if you could actually see this on camera. No, but Kevin, thank you for taking notice. I actually just came off one of the Grammy ceremonies.
Oh, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And is this your first time doing this show?
No, so this is actually my fourth time doing it. We do the Special Merit Awards ceremony, which is, if you guys don't know, the Grammys ceremony that you actually see on TV, it's specifically called the Grammys broadcast. And they only hand out 10 Grammys or so. But the Grammys actually has multiple ceremonies that happen here throughout LA. And so we just happen to hold one of them every year, which is the Special Merit Awards ceremony, which is the Lifetime Achievement Awards. And so, and then there's another ceremony called the Grammys Premiere Ceremony, which happens across the street from the main Grammys broadcast. And it happens the same day as the Grammys broadcast, but it happens at noon. So there's this 5-hour ceremony where they literally hand out 100 Grammys before you actually watch the Grammys that's on TV, which they only hand out 10. And then we do another Grammys, which we hand out, I don't know, maybe 5 or so. But like I said, the Lifetime Achievement Awards is one of the things that we hand out. And this year, they honored Shaka Khan, Cher, Carlos Santana, and they do a bunch of other Grammy awards, Technical Grammy, the Special Educator Award. So that's the ceremony that this is now my fourth year helping with audio.
Wow, man. And do they do the same style? Because, when you see the main one, when they're all walking in and taking the photos on the red carpet, do you get to do that still at your building?
Yeah, definitely. So they do a whole campus buyout, and basically on one side is the event center, and that's all glammed up, and they do some pre-show stuff, and then they do all the post-partying after. And so, there's a red carpet there, there's the press, there's the photos, all that kind of stuff. There's fancy, there was a red grand piano there in the courtyard this year. I think because it was sponsored by Budweiser. You see this fancy grand red piano and a big Budweiser thing on the side. But yeah, it has all the festivities that the other ceremonies has.
Wow, man. And how does it feel getting to do now this for your fourth year?
It's crazy because the first year, obviously, it was kind of a huge thing, right?
Yeah.
Never thought that I'd be doing a Grammys event or working a Grammys event. And, I forgot who was there the first year, but Nirvana was honored. So Dave Grohl was there, got to see them in person. Slick Rick, NWA, so Ice Cube and all of them were there. Yeah, it was really cool, but I kind of got to learn a lot of the nuts and bolts of how an awards show like that happens. All the players, all the different production companies, because, it's not just the Grammys, they hire production companies to do it. Everything from set design to the actual production, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of moving parts, but that week is really busy, right? They call it Grammy Week because there's so many events that happen all across town. You even have the Clive Davis party that happens, at the Beverly Hilton, and pretty much all the venues around LA. There's a Grammy thing happening, but we are one of the official Grammy Awards ceremonies that happens, and they take a 10-second clip of what happens in our venue and then post it onto the broadcast. So, that's how that goes.
When did you find out this was your, the Grammy was going to happen? When you did this the first time?
Man, the first time that I found out was the Grammys, actually, it was after the Emmys. So, the Emmys happened in December. The Emmys also, if you guys don't know, there's a lot of different Emmy show, right? You have daytime, you have the primetime Emmys, and then the first ever Children and Family Emmys, which was just focused on children and family television, was held at our venue, and I actually got to run sound, front of house sound for that award show, and that was nuts. It was like a 2-week install or something like that. You know, broadcast trucks coming from Nashville and everything, and all these rehearsals and whatever. And I remember doing it. It was my first time ever doing it. And my boss basically came up to me afterwards and congratulated me and said, you know, that was such a job well done. You know, the Grammys are coming around in February. Would you like to do it? And I said, would I? Like, you know, so that was, you know, some years ago now. Yeah, so it brings us up to the fourth time this time around. There was a new A1 front of house mixer.
Yeah.
So I actually served as the A2, which, you know, handles all the audio on stage. So all the microphones, the inputs, you know, all the outputs that go to the different monitors, you know, to Video Village, the broadcast, to the records, all these kinds of things. I was basically in charge of. And so, you know, we had a full day to install and set up and do all that kind of stuff. And because it's my fourth time doing it, I pretty much knew what the setup was. Thankfully, it didn't change too much.
Yeah.
And again, it was a new A1 mixer front of house, and he was pretty shocked because he was like, "Oh, everything's already set up. Like you didn't, you know, I didn't." And he didn't even know what the inputs were and all that. But again, we work closely with this production company that does it every year, and so you know, there's a lot of trust there. There is a lot of fluidity, and we just kind of knew what to do. And as a matter of fact, I think we even ended that first day like 2-3 hours early.
Wow.
You know, but we still had some stuff to do in the house. But the production company left, you know, and they're like, cool, like we're gonna go and have dinner and hang out.
Do you still get the jitters, or do you get a little nervous when you do something like this, especially because you were working a different role this year? Do you still like, whether it's like a fun jitters or maybe like fun adrenaline, or is it actually like nerves? You're like, I cannot mess up.
I mean, there's definitely a gravitas to something like this. Especially when you know who's going to be in the audience. And, you know, if something goes wrong or whatever, you know, all eyes are going to be on you, right? And usually that's the only time audio engineers get recognition, unfortunately, right? It's like when something goes wrong, they're looking back and, you know, giving you the death stare or whatever. But, you know, actually something did happen this year. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, like you'll see, I think I have some photos or video of what happened. Basically, you know, we're all on our comm headsets, and you know, so the producer's calling the show, here we go, we're going live in 1 minute, you know, 30 seconds, all this, and then all of a sudden somebody from front of house blurts out, it's like, there's 2 water bottles on stage, on the front of the stage. And everybody's going, what, where? And you know, I'm the A2, so I'm right there side stage at the entrance of the stage, you know, because I'm handling mics if I need to, if I do, you know, if something happens. And then, you know, we're like, who's going to get it? Oh, are we just going to leave it? You know, the first presenter is about to come out in less than 30 seconds. And nobody was really instructing anybody to do anything. And, you know, again, I just kind of wasn't sure if it was my job to do that or not, because I'm just handling audio. But they were counting down 15 seconds and somebody was like, I'll go get it. And we're like, we don't know who it is. And we don't know where it is. And so I basically like snuck up on stage. I saw it was right there in front of the podium. And I'm just going for it, you know, and they're counting down in the headset, 15, 14. I go run up to the lip of the stage. I grab the 2 water bottles. And literally as soon as I got out, the crowd started cheering. Yeah! And I go, this is the most embarrassing thing. Like, this should not be happening. And I'm like, I really hope they're not cheering for me. But I later found out, like on the video screen or whatever, they were showing something. It just so happened to, you know, the timing of it. I came out at the same time that this video graphics thing came out. But I grabbed the water and, you know, the first presenter came out and everything was good, you know, so that was kind of fun.
And the guy that was supposed to, or girl who was supposed to come and grab it,
I have no idea who it was because there were so many voices happening on the comms, you know, like, who's going to get it? Oh, it's for 30 seconds, 15. Okay, we're counting down. And the guy's running. I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. So I was proactive in that moment. I don't know if I was supposed to do that or if I would have gotten fired, but yeah, that was nerve wracking.
With these shows, I mean, the listeners, I'm sure would think that it would be something more intense, like, oh, a mic dies or a cable goes bad, but it was actually 2 water bottles that could ruin the aesthetics of a show.
Well, you know, and I mean, they're not wrong for thinking that, right? Yeah. Like a show like this high profile, You better believe there's backups on backups. There's not even one mic backup. There's like 4 mic backups. There's all these backup on backup plans that, if X happens, then Y, then Z, then, A, B, C. And so, everybody's pretty well prepared, but, it's live television. The Grammys are, and so they improvise, and that's where it helps to have a good host and a good director, so they can cut to something else or anything like that. But like anything live, like things happen, and so how you recover and how you are flexible with it really 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 matters.
What are some kind of do's and don'ts, being in this type of role, whether it was an A2 or an A1 that you've done in the past? Clearly you're dressed, for some of the stuff that I've done with you, like we just show up like kind of how I am, an all black t-shirt, all black pants, socks, whatever. But you're wearing a suit jacket. At least you can wear like a black shirt under there. But some of those things, and then there's security protocols clearly. But what are some of the things that maybe we don't, our listeners don't get to, learn in school?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to be prepared with the knowledge, right? I've served as A1 and now A2, a systems tech for this particular ceremony. And the thing is, like, you got to know your stuff, right? So you got to learn your stuff, whatever it is. If it's mixing, you got to know your stuff, right? Knowing how to mix, let's say, front of house for a broadcast is different than just learning how to mix for front of house. Because in this scenario, the broadcast is more important, right? The millions of viewers is more important than the thousands in-house. And so, I learned this actually doing the Emmys was once you set your PA system level, you don't touch it. So say your cap is 90 dB or something. During dress rehearsals and tech rehearsals and all that, you don't go above it, even if you can't hear the presenter or whoever's on stage. Because the reality is you got like 20 mics in the house that the broadcast mixer is using, and they and usually the broadcast mixer is in the truck, right, the TV truck, and they're mixing this all in, right? They want to get the live feel, but at the same time they're trying to limit the amount of PA that goes into their mics. And so if you have a lot of not equal sound levels and things like that, that's gonna mess with how his house mics are picking up. And so, I don't know if you've ever been to like an award show or like a TV taping, like The Voice or something. Mm-hmm. You realize sometimes you don't hear what's happening on stage, right? You don't hear what the hosts are saying because what's happening is they're prioritizing the broadcast mix. So understanding, something like that was something that I didn't know about on the technical side, And then on the more people side, it's really important to understand your role and to know who's in the other roles. For instance, me being an A2 this year was my first time doing that, and I was on stage, meaning I was literally like as close to Harvey Mason, who's the Grammy president, for pretty much the whole night because he's coming out and presenting all these awards and things like that, right? And then I was right there about, 10 feet away from Shaka Khan, and as tempting as it is to bust out your phone and just take something for the gram, understanding how to act in those situations, right? Not freaking out because, somebody who you look up to is right there, right? It's hard, it's tempting, but, there's certain things, right? And understanding when to talk, because sometimes, over communicating can actually be, a hindrance, especially when you're talking to like the stage manager or the producers or something. They've got a million things going on. Sometimes they have 3 comm units and a radio on them and their phone. And so when you think you're being helpful, you could actually be distracting them. And so, it just comes with like observing, right? Knowing who the people to communicate with are. Certain things that you could be proactive about, like I wasn't the stage manager, but whenever they had video playback and there was a countdown, I had a comm and I was next to the stage manager who didn't have comm sometimes because they're doing a million things. So I would just call out within my area, 30 seconds. I'd call out 10 seconds and they go grab the next presenter and just start bringing them out. It's actually really chaotic, or it can be really chaotic on stage. A million moving parts. People are, being picked up from the house where they're seated to come to get ready on stage to do this. Oh, somebody forgot their script. Somebody doesn't have their script. Somebody can't read the teleprompter. They're looking for the next awardee and they're not there. And again, this is all live. And so there's a bunch of moving parts. And so just understanding your role, when to speak, how to speak, who to speak to, who not to, Those are some things that are kind of important.
Yeah, I mean, with that in mind, is there kind of like your top three things that you're always like, hey, anyone new, like just watch out for these three things, and then just observe everything else, you know?
I mean, yeah, you talking about hygiene, that's huge. Breath is huge. I'm always chewing gum. I got gum right now. Like I shouldn't, but I've got gum right now. Hygiene's important. Like again, you get close to people, especially when you're on stage, it's really tight. You don't know how close you are to somebody. And again, like you're rubbing shoulders with the Grammy president or somebody who's been in the industry for 20, 30 plus years, things like that. Again, like knowing when to speak.
Yeah.
It's not when you're on the job, it's not time for you to network. Right. And I remember the first couple years that I did it, the mixer, he's done some things, in terms of, he's mixed for some artists and this and that and whatever. And, I wasn't out there and being like, hey man, let me get your number, or hey, can you hook me up on this next tour, or things like that. I literally did my job, and I did it as best as I could. Proper etiquette, all these kinds of things, speak when appropriate, but, kept my mouth shut when I needed to. And basically now, he was the one who asked for my number after that first time. And we kind of have a relationship, and he calls me and he'll call me in for a gig and to sub and things like that. So I think, when certain opportunities are meant for you, they'll be for you. But, you can't be too eager, right? You can't be, just throwing yourself out there and just be so desperate in getting the next gig or connecting with somebody or something. At the end of the day, it's like, if when you're prepared and the opportunity comes, that's a match made in heaven, right? When the opportunity comes and you're not prepared, that could be a missed thing, right? And so understanding like where you are on the journey is important. And again, like this year I was A2, meaning I'm not going to tell the guy how to mix, you know what I mean? But I'm going to plug in that cable as best as I can. I'm going to make sure my backup microphones have, full battery, like just things like that, you want to put the client at ease. And you want to make sure that they hired the right people.
How do you keep your energy up? What's some kind of pointers to kind of keep that going? What are your kind of little hacks that you do to do that? How does that?
12-hour days, a lot of coffee. I think the first day I started off with brewing my own coffee at home. And by the first break, I had a venti cold brew. And by second break, I had a grande cold brew. Just little things, during the show day, actually, I think I only had one coffee because it was so chaotic. There was no time to get another one and all that. And literally like there's this little lull during like tech rehearsal, which happens like right before the main show. And, I'm just sitting back there and I'm like, okay, here we go. People would pass me by like, you doing okay? You doing okay, Chad? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. But really I was like crashing, but hopefully adrenaline kicks in again, by the time, when you're busy and doing stuff and trying to keep track of your script and, it's like a 60-page script and all that. And you got to make sure, okay, where does this mic come out? Where does this happen? How do I do this? What if this happens? That kind of, wires you up. But yeah, it's just, hopefully you get some rest before it. But really, we literally just, did the show like 2 days ago. And so I barely had a day to rest, and I haven't really fully, but we wanted to record this, fresh. And so that's why we're doing this right now, but I am a little tired at the moment. Yeah.
And then I would say is anyone who's looking into eventually going into this world, what are the steps they can start doing to kind of make their way towards that? What's kind of like your strategy that you think is common to today's time now?
I mean, there's no path in this industry, right? Me and Kevin Chong, on this podcast always talk about it, right? It's networking, it's opportunity, it's also being prepared for that. But at the end of the day, I think in any job that you do, whether you're just serving at a local church or you're, doing sound at a local bar or pub or, maybe you're on tour or whatever, like you always want to do it, you always want to give your best. Right. Me being a producer, whether the artist has 5 followers or 5 million, I always give my best, whether they even pay me like, $50 or, $5,000, which I hope happens more. It doesn't happen. But, you always want to give your best. Right. Because every work that you do is a portfolio. Right. But at the end of the day, also, like, this is your passion. This is what you like to do. So, I'm always learning. I've never done award shows until like 5 years ago. And I just observed and just tried to take in so much. And I didn't realize that, my first one, which was the Children and Families Emmys, would turn into the Grammys. And then it actually turned into the MPSC, which is basically the Oscars for sound. That's a whole nother like pressure situation where literally all these sound engineers who mix these films that are nominated for Oscars, they're listening back to my mix. And so how did, their mix translate into my mix, into my sound system, the PA and all that kind of stuff, But, it's just, you're always continually learning. You always want to be prepared. And, you want to be a cool hang, man. At the end of the day, like nobody wants to be around somebody who's difficult or something like that. If you don't know something, ask. There's so many people who are willing to just share knowledge and to help you along the way. And if they're not willing to do that, then they're not the person you're supposed to be hanging around. There's a lot of people here who are willing to pass on knowledge to the next generation. So, don't be afraid to ask if you don't know something, because the last thing you'd want to do is to look like a fool messing up because you said you've done this before, or you know how to do this. You know what I mean? So.
Out of the 3 ceremonies that you mentioned earlier, is there one that you would love to be a part of, whether it's a specific role or just to see what's your curiosity telling you?
So, what's crazy is I never knew that there were different ceremonies about the Grammys until I worked one. So at the Grammys premiere ceremony where they hand out 90 Grammys, they actually have a live house band at this ceremony. So I don't know if you know this or not, but the Grammys telecast, there's not usually a house band. It's all canned music. And unless, you're like the performer or something and you have a band with you, then obviously that's a live band. But, walk-up music, walk-off, all that kind of stuff, that's all just canned music. In the Grammys premiere ceremony, there's a huge band. And I think in the last couple of years, it's been MD'd by Cheche Alare. And drums is Nate Morton, who's the drummer on The Voice. Bass is one of my favorite bassists, Lee Scalar. And they literally go through like 90 pieces of music and it's all live. So imagine running down 90 pieces of music, and it could be anything from like 15 seconds to 2 minutes, however long it takes for the awardee to get down out to the stage and stuff. And, that would be such a treat to work someday or even just to attend, because like world-class musicians, Dean Parks is on guitar, like horn section, strings, background vocals, all this kind of stuff. And they have crazy performances, by artists backed by the house band. So, that's something I'd hope to, someday be a part of, something I'm striving for. So, Kevin, thank you so much for co-hosting and filling in for Kevin Chong.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it and enjoyed my time being here.
Yeah. Kevin's our first official sub host here since Kevin Chong is out on another gig, but we really wanted to continue to keep putting out these podcasts for you. And so, Kev, thanks so much for interviewing me and my Grammys experience. And a big shout out to our videographer too, who's behind the camera, Nathan, who actually worked this ceremony with me. And Nathan was handling a lot of the video duties and other like comm things also. So, it's really cool that he's also a part of our podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, share this with all your friends. And yeah, tune in to the next one of the Chad and Chong podcast.